Israel says Hamas militants kidnapped 3 Israeli teens near a Jewish settlement in the West Bank.
One of those teens also holds U.S. citizenship.
The 3 teenagers were kidnapped on Thursday night while they were hitchhiking home after religious studies. The Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has vowed that he will do everything in his power to bring them back safely.
And this attack should surprise no one, because Hamas makes no secret of its agenda. Hamas is committed to the destruction of Israel and to carrying out terrorist attacks against Israeli civilians, including children.
שלום, אני רוצה לעדכן על אירוע בשעות האחרונות. עבד הקשר בשעות הלילה המאוחרות עם 3 נערים באזור גוש עציון, ומאז שעות הבוקר אנחנו עסוקים בפעילות מבצעית שמטרתה לחפש אחר האנשים ולהביא אותם.
I came out here to say thank you. As you see, we are surrounded with a wonderful, warm family and community, and they're taking care of us and protecting us. Everybody is doing everything humanly possible to bring Naftali, Eyal, and Gil-ad home safely as soon as possible. And everybody else, if you could please pray with us. We trust that Eyal and Gil-ad and Naftali, boys coming home on their way from school, they were just on their way home, will be with us here, and we'll hug them soon. God willing, we'll all be able to celebrate their return safely.
מאז שעות הבוקר אנחנו עסוקים בפעילות מבצעית שמטרתה לחפש אחר האנשים ולהביא אותם. אנחנו בשעות האחרונות מרכזים מאמץ מודיעיני גדול מאוד ומנסים להתחקות אחר הנעשה עם הנערים האלה בשעות האחרונות מאז שהם נעלמו.
We just wish to hug our children home. Naftali, Eyal, Gil-ad, we love you, we miss you. Please be strong. Hold on, be strong. We love you, we want to hug you again.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to UJA's Rally for Our Boys. Would you now please stand and join Daniel Sadowski in the singing of O Canada?
Canada, our home and native land, true patriot love in all thy sons command. With glowing hearts we see thee rise, a true north, strong and free. From far and wide, O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. God, keep our land glorious and free. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage a great friend to Jewish Toronto and to UJA Federation of Greater Toronto, tonight's Master of Ceremonies, Canadian sports journalist extraordinaire, Mr. Elliot Friedman.
Thank you very much, but I actually wanted to open the evening tonight by thanking everybody in the crowd here. This event obviously came together very quickly. It is easy to make excuses. Too short notice. Sorry, I already had something on my schedule, but each and every one of you was able to be here tonight in an important show of support for that video we just saw. Give yourselves a big hand. Thank you very much for being here tonight. I wanted to thank the UJA myself for inviting me to be part of this. like many of you, I have family in Israel. My sister made Aliyah several years ago. She's got a son. She's got a daughter. None of us may be blood relatives to those three boys, but in a lot of ways, they are our grandsons, our sons, our brothers, our cousins, and our nephews. And so thank you very much tonight. It sends a very powerful message to those boys, their families, to Israel, to the world, that Jewish Toronto cares and is praying that the celebration will take place in the very near future of their return. I would like to take a moment to introduce some of the dignitaries who are with us this evening. I just ask that you hold your applause until all the names have been recited. The Consul General of Israel for Toronto and Western Canada, DJ Schneeweiss. The Vice President of the World Sikh Organization of Ontario, Prabmeet Singh Sarkaria. The President and CEO of UJA Federation, Ted Sokolsky. The President and CEO of the Jewish Federations of Canada, UIA, Linda Kislevitz. Also tonight, we're joined by some of our elected officials, Mark Adler, the Member of Parliament, Federal for York Centre, Irwin Kotler, who you'll be hearing more from in a few minutes, the Member of Parliament for Mount Royal, Gila Marto, the Member of Provincial Parliament for Thornhill, Markham Councillor Ward 2, Howard Shore, and the Deputy Mayor of Vaughan, Gino Rosati. Thank you very much, all of you, for attending tonight. We are also joined by several candidates for federal and municipal elections, and I do apologize if we missed any of you who are here tonight. I'll take the heat for that. Thank you very much for coming. We've also received best wishes to our community and the hope that the teenagers will be returned safely to their families from the United Macedonians Organization of Canada and the National Congress of Italian Canadians. Thank you very much for your support. We appreciate it. Before I introduce our next speaker, I wanted to take a moment to do something a little bit different. We all feel very deeply for the parents and the families and the kidnapped boys. It's impossible not to feel incredible emotion after listening to the mother speak. And we want to send our love and support. This, after all, is why we are here tonight. It's said that a picture is worth 1,000 words, so what better way to show that love, that support, than we are sending tonight than by a large group photo. So what we are going to do is ask you to pick up the posters that were on your chairs when you came in here, raise them as high as you can. We will take a couple pictures, and later tonight, these photos will be sent directly to the parents. And that's great that we've got them both in English and Hebrew. That's fantastic. Good? We're good. Thank you very much, everybody. By the way, whoever came up with that idea, that was a great idea. That was great stuff. It's now my pleasure to introduce another honored guest with us this evening. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage Israel's Consul General to Toronto and Western Canada, DJ Schneeweiss.
Erev Tov. Good evening, everybody. It is my honor to thank the UJA Federation of Greater Toronto, CJA, all the volunteers, everybody involved in organizing tonight's rally, everybody who's here, and the entire community for rallying for the return of Eyal, Gil-ad, and Naftali, these three innocent teenagers. Thank you all also for loving Israel and understanding what it stands for and how important it is for all Jews and for humanity as a whole that Israel should be secure and strong. There is no community in the world like this one. No community which better understands the need to stand with Israel, and it is truly an honor for me to stand here and thank you all for that. And let me tell you also that your message is getting through. Israel knows, the people of Israel, the citizens of Israel know that the Jewish world is united behind us and that the Toronto Jewish community is united behind us. And I can assure you that myself and my colleagues from the consulate who are here with me tonight will, of course, convey that message ourselves again. Ladies and gentlemen, exactly 1 week ago, a crime was perpetrated. Not only against Naftali, Eyal, and Gil-ad, and not only against Israel, but against the basic humanity shared by all peoples. 3 innocent teenage boys were abducted to be used as pawns in a vicious attempt to extort a country and to terrorize its people. The debased, truly depraved and inhuman nature of this deliberate act screams to the skies. And while many in the world may remain indifferent, I have to be honest with you to tell you that the world is with us. The world is with us. We hear it from the leaderships of the serious countries, and we see it across the globe. Leading the pack is Canada. We are grateful, so grateful to the Government of Canada for the clarity of its voice on the international stage. We are grateful for its willingness to stand by its convictions and to stand with Israel. Our Jewish heritage speaks of Israel as a light unto the nations, or lagoyim. Friends, in this era, it is Canada that is the beacon which shines brightest on the international stage. And I'm glad here to have the opportunity to convey our appreciation and admiration to the elected officials, to the representative of government here, Mark Adler, for the clear moral and politically vital stand taken by the government and for the support we receive from across the political spectrum in this country. Friends, I'm going to take a minute and say a couple of words about the kidnapping itself. We know that Hamas is behind this cruel attack. We know that Hamas has been trying to kidnap Israelis for months and years. And we know that the Hamas leadership continued to call for such violence even after the latest unity deal with Fatah, which brought them nominally into government. This deliberate act of aggression and wanton cruelty demands that Israel act. Not only are we within our rights, we have a fundamental moral obligation to do everything in our power to bring these boys home, and we will not rest until we do. Thankfully, we have the wonderful, heroic Israel Defense Forces ready to do the job. There is no army in the world better equipped, morally, spiritually, with the values of the Torah, with the values of the Torah running through its veins, technologically equipped, and equipped through its clear understanding of the justness of its cause. There is no army better equipped for this mission than our Tzahal. Friends, the kidnapping, though, comes in a larger context as well of this Palestinian unity government that that was supposedly meant to help us promote peace. But by putting suits in front of the cameras when you've got terrorists in the back room, that's not a way to make peace. Sadly, though, there are too many wishful thinkers in the West who think a bit of cosmetics will do the job. So we will say it again and again and again. Hamas is not a partner for peace. Hamas is an enemy of peace. And that makes it the enemy of everyone in this room, everyone in this city, everyone in this country, and everyone throughout the world, whether they fully realize it or not. And that is why Prime Minister Netanyahu continues to call on Palestinian leader Mahmoud Abbas to dismantle the unity government and to get back to the business of working with us, not with our common foe. Ladies and gentlemen, it's exactly 1 week since the IDF started searching for Eyal, Gil-ad, and Naftali. Our hearts go out to the boys themselves and to their families. And we express our admiration for their fortitude in the face of their ordeal. But that fortitude derives in no small part from their knowledge that the entire Jewish world is united and standing with them. Together we are strong, and that is reflected powerfully here this evening. Together we can meet the challenges that our enemies put before us. Together, despite the challenges, we will continue to build our communities and the State of Israel and take our rightful place among the nations. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, bringing greetings from the Government of Canada, please welcome MP of York Centre, Mark Adler.
Shalom Aleichem. I bring greetings on behalf of our Prime Minister, the Right Honourable Stephen Harper. Release our boys now. Hashivu habanim b'shalom. President Abbas, it is your responsibility to secure the immediate release of Gil-ad Shaar, Eyal Yifrach, and Naftali Frankel, and bring those responsible for this despicable and cowardly act to justice without delay. Within the last 2 days, I have discussed this situation with both Prime Minister Stephen Harper and Foreign Affairs Minister John Baird. Both are very deeply concerned for the safety and the security of these 3 boys and demand that the Palestinian Authority work diligently to ensure their safe return to their families. Remember what Prime Minister Harper said in the Knesset during his recent visit to Israel. Israel's right to exist as a Jewish state is absolute and non-negotiable. Canada will stand with Israel through fire and water. And today is one of those times. Canada is deeply concerned by recent events. This kidnapping is just the latest campaign of terror against the Jewish state of Israel. The day after the kidnapping, 2 rockets were fired from Gaza to the 160 mortar and rocket attacks added since last summer, even some today, targeting an area in southern Israel no bigger than the GTA, which we find ourselves in right now. What is so tragic, however, is that these rockets aimed at men, women, and children were not paid much attention to by the world. This is wrong. We must never allow acts of terror to become background noise. President Abbas declared his administration has no direct links to Hamas. In announcing the new unity government, he reasserted his authority over Gaza. With authority comes responsibility, President Abbas. However, nothing we have seen from Hamas since the new government emerged gives us any hope they will willingly and permanently cede real control or even abandon commitment to the destruction of the Jewish state. Hamas remains the only real authority in Gaza. President Abbas has said things will change. Our government, the Canadian government, will judge the new Palestinian government's actions by its actions and not by its words. We call upon the Palestinian government and President Abbas to, 1, undertake complete disarmament of Hamas and all other terrorist groups operating in Gaza. 2, exercise control and command of all its territory, particularly halting the smuggling of weapons into Gaza. 3, oversee the complete abolition of all militias and private armies in Gaza. And 4, rescuing and securing the release of the 3 kidnapped boys. Now, while it is early days in the life of the new Palestinian government, it is not too early for the new government to show they are serious about maintaining their commitment to peace with Israel. As a first step in this direction, they can start by returning these boys to their homes safely. Now, yesterday, my wife and 10-year-old twins tied a blue and white ribbon to our maple tree in the front yard of our home. They did this in a symbol of solidarity with the 3 Israeli boys. I call on all people of good conscience who support freedom, democracy, human rights, and the rule of law to condemn these reprehensible and deplorable acts in the strongest possible terms. The Palestinian Authority must find and apprehend the perpetrators and bring them to justice. Now, I urge everyone, all people, wherever they may live, to join my family and others around this country and tie a blue and white ribbon to your home, to your car, to your tree, to your office. Let the world stand as one under the blue and white. I have done so. Now it is your turn. God bless you all, and God bless our great country of Canada.
I am Eyal Frankel, the aunt of Naftali Frankel from Eyal, that was abducted together with 2 other boys, Gil-ad and Eyal, a week ago. This has been a very difficult week for the family. It was a difficult week for the community and for the whole country. But we are full of hope. We know that everybody is doing whatever they can to get the teenage boys back safe. We're getting support from all over the country and from all over the world, support that crosses regions and religions. This support is very, very important and meaningful for the family. It helps us be strong. People all over the world are praying for the safe release of the teenage boys. We are very, very thankful for that. Jewish communities all over the world are organizing rallies and mass tefillot for the release of the boys. We are very, very thankful for that. We're thankful to you, the Toronto Jewish community, for the support you're giving the family. We ask you to please continue praying for the boys, and please continue raising your voice against this horrible crime that's done against innocent children. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Rabbi Daniel Korobkin of Beth Avraham Yosef of Toronto Synagogue, Rabbi Yael Splansky of Holy Blossom Temple, and from Beth Tzedek Congregation, Rabbi Baruch Friedman Kohl, who will recite prayers for Israel's 3 missing sons.
Ladies and gentlemen, please rise. Please say the words with me, sentence by sentence, responsively. It doesn't matter what language you speak, God will hear our prayers. Shir lama'alot, esainai el heharim, me'ayin yavo ezri. Ezri me'im Adonai, osei shamayim varetz. Al yitein lamot raglecha, al yanum shomerecha. Hinei lo yanum v'lo yishan, shomer Yisrael. Adonai shomerecha, Adonai tzilecha, al yad yeminecha. Yomam hashemesh lo yakeka, v'yareach balayla. Adonai yishmorecha mikol ra, yishmores nafshecha. Adonai yishmor tzeitecha uvoecha, me'ata v'yad olam.
Shir Hama'alot, Mima'amakim Karaticha Adonai. Adonai Shim'a B'koli Tiyena Oznecha Kashuvot L'kol Tachnunai. Im Avonot Yishmor Ya Adonai Mi Ya'amod, Ki Imcha Haslicha Lema'an Tivarei. I wait for the eternal God, my soul does wait, and in God's word do I place my hope. My soul waits for the Eternal One more than watchmen wait for the morning, more than watchmen who wait for the morning. O Israel, put hope in Adonai, for with Adonai there is loving care, and with Adonai redemption grows. V'hu yivdeh et Yisrael mikol avonotav. God will yet redeem Israel from every heartbreak.
Please join me. Maskil David, Yoto b'ma'ara, Tefillah. Koli el Adonai ezak, Koli el Adonai et chanan. אשפוך לפניו שיחי, צורתי לפניו אגיד. בהתעטף עלי רוחי, ואתה ידעת נתיבתי, באורח זו עליך, תמנו פח לי. הבית ימין וראה, ואין לי מכיר, אבד מנוס ממני, אין דורש לנפשי. זעקתי אליך אדוני, אמרתי אתה מחסי חלקי בארץ החיים.
זעקתי אליך אדוני, אמרתי אתה מחסי חלקי בארץ החיים.
הקשיבה אל רינתי, כי דלותי מאוד, הצילני מרודפי, כי אמצו ממני. הוציאה ממסגר נפשי, להודות את שמך, בי יכתירו צדיקים, כי תגמול עלי.
הוציאה ממסגר נפשי, להודות את שמך, ויכתירו צדיקים, כי תגמול עלי.
Bring me out of the prison to acclaim your name. The righteous will gather around me when you deal graciously with me.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome back Daniel Sadowski and one of UJA's Israel engagement Shinshanim, Gal Fisher.
נשמה שנתת בי שיר המעלות שא עיניי אל ההרים מאין יבוא עזרי מימה שם עושה שמיים וארץ אל יתן למות רגליך אל ינום שומרך הננו ינום ולא ישן שומר ישראל השם שומרך השם צילך על יד ימינך יומם השמש לא יכך והריח בלילה השם ישמורך מכל רע ישמור את נפשך השם ישמור צאתך ובואך מעתה ועד עולם מעתה ועד עולם. תודה.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's now my pleasure to introduce this evening's keynote speaker, who was there last week visiting Israel to see firsthand how the events of this news unfolded. Law professor, constitutional and comparative legal scholar, international human rights lawyer, counsel to prisoners of conscience, NGO head, peace activist, member of parliament, former Minister of Justice and Attorney General of Canada, Erwin Kotler has been variously described in these roles and responsibilities as being at the forefront for the struggle for justice, peace, and human rights. There is perhaps no one more qualified to speak this evening about Israeli citizens who are the victims of extremism than this man. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my sincere pleasure to introduce and welcome Erwin Kotler.
Thank you for those kind words. Erev Tov, Bruchim Habayim. A week ago, I left Paris for Israel, having participated in a meeting with President Hollande, who spoke to us, and I was there as part of a delegation from Simon Wiesenthal Center on the eve of a rather historic exhibit in UNESCO regarding Israel, land, people, memory, book, and the like. And President Hollande spoke to us of two threats: the threat of anti-Semitism and the threat of terrorism. And he said that these two threats were joined and indeed undergirded by the jihadists returning from Syria, who were responsible both for the anti-Semitism and the terrorism that had dramatically manifested itself in the attack on the Jewish Museum in Brussels. When asked to say a few words at that meeting, I said that what lay at the core of both terrorism and anti-Semitism, of what lay at the core of what was happening in Brussels and what was happening elsewhere, were these state-sanctioned cultures of hate, of state-sanctioned incitement to hate and to genocide. I had in mind also, though did not speak of it at the meeting, the escalation, indeed intensification, of this state-sanctioned incitement to hatred, this demonization of Israel and the Jewish people under the authority of the Palestinian, of the PA, as well as Hamas, where Hamas, in its covenant, this is not a matter of evil but idle speech, where Hamas, in its covenant, openly calls for the destruction of Israel and the killing of Jews wherever they may be, openly anchors its genocidal incitement in classical anti-Semitism, openly calls for the commission of terrorist acts in furtherance of its murderous purpose, where Hamas is the manifestation today of what can only be called genocidal anti-Semitism. This is not a term that I would use lightly or easily, but there is no other term that can be used to describe the toxic convergence of the advocacy of the most horrific of crimes, whose name we should even shudder to mention, namely genocide, embedded in the oldest and most enduring of hatreds, namely anti-Semitism. And so it was that I arrived later that evening, a week ago, Thursday night, in Israel. Picked up, as I usually do and as is my wont, the Israeli newspapers, and then listened into the night. The Channel 99, if those of you may listen to it, goes on all night, and you can pick up what has been going on in the last week as well as what is going on when you are there. And I learned that rockets had landed in Ashkelon the day before, though I had not seen it reported anywhere. I learned that earlier in the week, a Hamas minister had threatened to kidnap Israelis as bargaining chips for the release of Palestinian terrorists imprisoned in Israel. I learned that the Palestinian Authority continued to glorify these prisoners as martyrs or heroes of the Palestinian resistance. I learned that Israel had foiled some 44 attempts to abduct or kidnap Israelis in the last year alone. But all of this, as this is also Israel's want, and this was Thursday evening before we knew yet of the disappearance and then abduction of the Israeli teenagers. All of this as I listened into the Israeli TV in the evening, got overtaken by the din and deluge of inter-party, if not intra-party, recriminations in the Israeli political culture, of the fallout from the corrosive electoral process in the Knesset, which ended up happily with the election of President Rivlin, but until it got there, as one witnessed being there, was a corrosive process, of the mutually delegitimating discourse that was taking place between the religious and the secular, let alone amongst the religious themselves, between the right and the left, and within the right and the left, between the coalition and the opposition, but also between the coalition and within the opposition. If Hamas and the PA was a state-sanctioned culture of hate, I thought to myself, Israel was a culture of argument. It was not yet the Isaiah's dream of let us come and reason together. The next morning, Friday morning, all that changed. All the newscasts led with the disappearance of 3 Israeli teenagers, and then as the day continued, the discourse changed from disappearance to abduction. That Friday evening, that Shabbat evening, I attended, which had been in the planning stages before, what was to be the largest ever Shabbat. They invited the Guinness Book of Records to come and record the fact that this was the largest ever Shabbat dinner that took place on the port in Israel, in Tel Aviv. But what remains in my mind's eye from that evening, and you have to understand this was an incredible day, a dramatic newscast dominating the day, interspersed with the gay pride parade during the day, then the Shabbat dinner prayer, a kaleidoscope of images where some of those from the gay pride parade actually also came to the Shabbat dinner. But everyone who spoke that evening, everyone who spoke in that Guinness Shabbat, spoke about the abducted teenagers, spoke about Naftali, Frankel, spoke about Gil-ad Shaar, spoke about Eyal, Yifrach. That was the dominating feeling and prayer and hope. And people spoke and prayed, and so it was later on at that Shabbat dinner when I met with my friends, people with whom I had worked and studied, people like former Supreme Court Justice Barak, my colleague Alan Dershowitz, who was also visiting Israel and spoke that evening. The entire evening dominated by prayer and by hope. And so it continued on Shabbat. So it continued when we visited with Natan Sharansky and his family, who spoke about the importance of ensuring that the families are not alone, that we stand in solidarity with the families, that he remembered how when he was in prison, in the former Soviet Union, how important it was that he knew that Israel and the Jewish people were united in common cause on his behalf, how important it was to Avital Sharansky at the time, how important it must be now for the families that we stand together with them in common cause. And so it continued into Shabbat evening, where I visited my own family, my grandchildren, that night in Ra'anana, and where my grandchildren, this doesn't happen in that sense in the diaspora, where the grandchildren knew the names of each of the teenagers and were praying for them. And then the news came on, and Netanyahu was saying what would be the headline the next day in the newspapers, and I just brought the Jerusalem Post of that next Sunday morning, because this is what Netanyahu had said the night before. Prime Minister, our boys were kidnapped by terrorist group. 3 yeshiva students missing since Thursday night, named as Gil-ad Shaar, Eyal, Yifrach, and Naftali Frankel, who also has U.S. citizenship. Widespread search underway in the West Bank. I've shown you one newspaper, but every newspaper, every headline was dominated by this sense of angst and anguish. And as I spoke to my friends and family, even here in Canada and elsewhere, that sense of angst and anguish was, yes, beginning amongst the Jewish diaspora, but it remained a footnote in the general political cultures. By Sunday evening, the Netanyahu announcement of Saturday evening was no longer that they were kidnapped, that our boys were kidnapped by a terrorist group. It now was, in Netanyahu's own words, the naming of that terrorist group. As he put it, without equivocation, it was Hamas. And this began a different discourse at that point. And I could not help, I have to tell you, but think back to the Hamas abduction of Gil-ad Shaar. And I remember being here in Toronto on the evening when we came together, and that evening of solidarity and prayer for Gil-ad Shaar. And I remember at that time when we came together, Gil-ad Shaar, as I said then, had been held hostage by Hamas in violation of every international law, human rights, and humanitarian treaty. Then, in March 2011, he had been held for over 1,700 days. For over 4.5 years, denied any contact with the outside world, if we recall at the time. No visits by the Red Cross, no Geneva Convention protection, no international humanitarian law protections, no letters of packages from his family, no details of his physical condition, no reference anywhere to his location, nothing. And as I thought back about it, a chill came over me in terms of who had abducted the 3 teenagers. And I recall when we raised Gil-ad's case at the time, the answer often was, but what about Israel? And this came from pro-Palestinian voices at the time. Don't they have thousands of prisoners? And indeed, Israel acknowledged that there were approximately 2,000 Hamas prisoners in Israeli prisons, those who have committed a series of war crimes and crimes against humanity, those for whom Hamas now kidnaps and abducts to release those Hamas prisoners in Israeli prisons. And we have to bear in mind and appreciate what those prisoners, what those Hamas prisoners whose release they are seeking have been imprisoned for. First, the intentional targeting of civilians, of Israeli civilians, itself a war crime. Second, launching attacks from within Palestinian civilian areas, itself a war crime. Third, the misuse and abuse of humanitarian symbols, such as using ambulances to transport terrorists, known as the perfidy principle, itself a war crime. Fourth, the direct and public incitement to genocide, itself not only a war crime, a crime against humanity. Fifth, the widespread and systematic character of their attacks, crimes against humanity. Sixth, the recruitment of children into armed conflict, also a war crime. And now the abduction of Israeli teenagers held as hostages, yet another war crime. And so on Monday, my last day in Israel before I returned, I visited the Israeli Knesset. I have to tell you that it was an incredible day. An incredible day in that wherever I went, with whoever I spoke, it was always, always on everybody's lips and everybody's heart and everybody's neshama in every speech, Achenu Yisrael, our boys. Bring back our boys. Indeed, the theme of the operation that the Israeli army is now engaged in and the Israeli people are engaged in is Shomer Achi Anochi. I am my brother's keeper. An antidote to the old Cain and Abel. Am I my brother's keeper? Shomer Achi Anochi with a question mark? But no, with an exclamation mark now. An exclamation mark of Shomer Achi Anochi. And so, wherever I went, whether it was in meetings with Bayit Yehudi, or whether it was in meetings with Meretz, whether it was in meetings with Likud, or in meetings with Labor, whether I met with Bougie Herzog, the opposition leader, or whether I met with Likud ministers, wherever I went, the prescription, the engagement, the hope, the prayer was the same. And one of the more remarkable manifestations of Achenu Yisrael, of Shomer Achi Anochi, something that I'll never forget, was a prayer gathering in the Knesset, where people from all parties, right and left, men and women, came together for Shomer Achi Anochi prayer. And as I look back, and with this I move to a close, and as I look back on these 4 days in Israel, what remains with me, what made this visit only 4 days so powerful, so memorable, so meaningful, so compelling, is the power of solidarity in a just cause, of the power of Israel as a family state, as a mishpacha medina, of the power of Israel and the diaspora when joined together in common cause, of the power of a people that celebrates life and not death, of the power of prayer and faith and belief, of the power of Moreshet Yisrael, of which it was spoken earlier, of our Jewish heritage, tradition, memory, book, land, Israel, state, of the power, the morality, the commitment, as Bijay put it earlier in his remarks, of Tzahal, of the Israeli Defense Forces, the most moral army in the world today, where Israel is the only where the morality of that army can best be appreciated when we understand that Israel is the only state in the world today, and the Jewish people are the only people in the world today that are standing targets of state-sanctioned incitement to genocide. And amidst that kind of incitement, and I witnessed it when I was there, where Israel was spoken of by the Palestinian Authority, not Hamas only, by the Palestinian Authority in its own leadership, its existence and its creation as being a monstrosity, where Israel was spoken of as a crime against humanity. I can go on, but I don't want to even share with you any of that inciting language. But this is where Tzahal maintains its morality, maintains its discipline, maintains its commitment in the face of such murderous incitement and such terrorist acts. Of a country which takes the wife of Mahmoud Abbas, treats her, operates on her, and releases her in the midst of all this back to Abbas. A country that is treating Syrians wounded amongst the scorched earth killing in Syria. A country that even treated Hamas leaders in its hospitals and returned them free to Gaza. Of the power of a people that has tzedek, tzedek tirdof, justice, justice shall you pursue as its abiding vision and commitment. Of a people that is anchored deeply and profoundly, day after day, and we should never forget it, in Shultan HaChok, in the rule of law, in an independent judiciary, in a free press, in a democratic parliament, which underpins everything that Israel does. And so I am proud to be a son of this Jewish people. I am proud to be able I am proud to be able to say that I am the son of Nat and Faye Kotler, Zichrono Livracham, who taught me the importance of tzedek, tzedek tirdof, that must always be my moral compass. I am proud that my daughters went on Aliyah, joined the Israeli army, and today are proud citizens of the State of Israel. I am proud that my Israeli wife, whom I met in Jerusalem, educated our children and our family and beyond in Moreshet Yisrael, in the tradition and the power of Jewish people and Jewish memory and Jewish purpose. I am proud to be a citizen of a country like Canada that stands shoulder to shoulder with our democratic ally, the people of Israel. I am proud to be a member of Parliament in a Canadian Parliament where I could get up and say on Independence Day, on Yom Ha'atzmaut in Israel, in the Canadian Parliament, in my Aboriginal language, Hebrew, Oseh Shalom Bimromav, Hu Yaseh Shalom Aleinu V'al Kol Yisrael V'Yemru, Amen, that he It almost loses in translation, but I have to say that when I said it in Hebrew, it garnered the respect of all parties in the House. And that's why I'm so proud, as I say, to be a proud parliamentarian in Canada and in a government that stands shoulder to shoulder with the State of Israel. And so I join together with you, with the Jewish people, wherever they may be, with the State of Israel, in prayer and in hope. And I was very moved by the Shir HaMa'alot this evening, as shared with us by the rabbis. I was very moved by the particular phrasing of Adonai Yishmor Tzedcha V'echa Me'ata V'ed Olam. The good Lord will guard you in your coming and your going, now and forever. V'hu yivdeh et Yisrael. He will be the author, she will be the author of our redemption. And so, as you all have said this evening, in your signs, in your prayers, in your feelings, in your hopes, Hashivu et Banenu, bring back our boys safely.
This was an incredibly well-deserved ovation. I think I speak for everybody in the crowd tonight that we were honored you could take time out from what is undoubtedly a hectic schedule to be here. You talked about words like togetherness and solidarity. Those are more than just words right now. That is what we have. And you said, I am proud to be the son of Jewish people. That resonated with everybody in here because that is why this room is full. Thank you very much for your message, Mr. President. Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you very much. Before we wrap up, we ask that you continue your support, your public support, for our 3 missing sons. We are asking that all of you here tonight send a message of hope and support to the families of the kidnapped students, and it will literally just take you seconds on your smartphone. Earlier, we all stood up and took a photo with the signs on your seat, "Bring back our boys," and if you are tweeting, make sure you use that with the hashtag. But there was also another smaller sheet with instructions on how to send a message, but I'll verbalize them for you as well. Just pick up your phones. You can do it right now if you wish. You will go to a website called jewishtoronto.com/ourboys, and you can leave your message of support to the families. Before we wrap up, I want to thank Mr. Kotler and everybody here from the UJA Federation of Greater Toronto and the Center for Israel and Jewish Affairs for coming out tonight. As we said off the top, it was on short notice. There were a lot of reasons to make excuses. None of you did, and we appreciate that, and we know the families will too. UJA will consolidate all the messages that you put onto that website, jewishtoronto.com/ourboys, and they will be put into one document which will be sent to the families so that they know we, the members of Toronto's Jewish community, are standing with them at this very trying time. Those messages will go just as the photo we took earlier will go. And now let's welcome back Daniel Sadowski and Gull Fisher for the singing of Hatikva.
כל עוד בלבב בנעימה נפש יהודי הומיה ולפתי מזרח קדימה עין לציון צופיה עוד לא אבדה תקוותנו התקווה בת שנות 2000 עם חופשי בארצנו, ארץ ציון ירושלים.
Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes tonight's program. Thank you for joining us, and please drive safely.